Creepy encounter at my uncle's cabin. I had a very scary experience happen to me in 2017 that has stuck with me throughout the years, and I'm wondering if you all could possibly help me explain what I witnessed in the woods all those years ago. I was about 16 at the time and I am half indigenous. I was visiting my uncle on my mom's side, the indigenous side, at his cabin located in the woods of northwestern Maine because I was driving my grandpa up to visit them for the fall season. The cabin was rather small and could only accommodate my uncle, auntie, and grandpa, so I was told to sleep in the camper that was set back further into the woods. That evening went by as usual. Auntie made dinner and we all laughed and shared stories and eventually turned in for the night. I took a flashlight and started my way out to the camper. About halfway down, I shut off the flashlight and looked up to admire the night sky. It was at this point I noticed how quiet the forest had become. There were no birds or sounds of crickets or rustling leaves, just pure silence. I suddenly got this intense feeling of dread deep within my gut and the hair on the back of my neck stood up. The voice in my head told me to bolt to the camper as fast as I could. For some reason my instincts told me I didn't belong there and something was watching me. When I made it to the camper I slammed the door shut and double-locked it, closing the window blinds. I swear I could hear my heart pounding in my ears as I laughed at myself for getting so worked up over nothing. The entire night I was restless in my sleep. I couldn't help but hear footsteps and movement all around the camper. I told myself it was just curious animals and grazing deer, but my dreams were haunted by something I couldn't see. Unfortunately, this would not be my final experience of the weekend. By morning all seemed normal. I thought about mentioning what had happened to my grandfather over breakfast, but I was worried that he would brush me off as being overdramatic or being too used to the city life. I let the odd night slide off my mind as I enjoyed the day with my family and their big shepherd Frank. Just to calm my nerves, I asked for Frank to accompany me in the camper that evening to ensure I felt safe. The walk back was once again fine until I began to enter the tree line. I'm not sure if it was because I was feeling nervous as well, but Frank seemed to be on edge with his ears perked and head on a swivel. That night he slept in the bed of the trailer with me. I felt safer with the dog there, however I had an extremely awful dream in which when I awoke, Frank was staring at the wall of the trailer with his hackles standing on end. When the morning hit I packed my bags to leave in the afternoon and brought Frank out of the trailer and lead him out to the small field between the cabin and the thick woods. I was kicking his ball for him to excitedly chase, grab and return to me. We continued this game until I kicked the ball a bit too hard and it rolled right down to the edge of the woods. Frank raced down to grab the ball until his full sprint turned into a full stop, digging his paws into the dirt meters past where the ball had landed. He was standing stiff, fur on end, ears pinned back and unmoving. I called for him to come, which he always responded to, but he didn't even acknowledge me. I began to walk down to where he was, calling his name a little bit louder still with no response. I grabbed him by the collar, getting kind of worried at this point as his eyes stared directly into the trees. I yelled his name loudly, giving him a little tug. The forest was silent. Moments later the silence was broken by an echo of my voice yelling back, however this echo was delayed and distorted. It sounded like me but also not like me. I froze and looked into the dark woods, holding my breath only for another scream to come from the woods in my voice. I immediately turned and booked it back to the cabin. I came to my auntie crying and trying to tell her that there was something out there in those woods. She comforted me and told me it must have been nothing, but she seemed as if that was not the answer she wanted to give. My family is rather superstitious, especially me, and I'm guessing she didn't want me to overthink anything. I left that afternoon and I have not been back since that weekend. A friend of mine told me to share my story on this thread as you all might have an idea of what I experienced. I'm not sure if I'm dealing with a cryptid, bad spirit or just an overactive imagination.